Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Welcome to PodUp with Matthews in the morning, coming to you live from the International Diamond Studios, family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry, the only diamond and jewelry partner of the Florida Gators. I'm your host, Loren Meadows, filling in for Shane Matthews, and today we'll be joined by Buddy Martin in the first half of the show, and later by Kyle Crooks, voice of Gators softball, Gators women's basketball, Gators soccer, and all things Gators in the second half of the show. How you doing, buddy?
What day is this?
It is
something
Tuesday.
Wrong. It's not night, number one. Not one of the 3 or 4 nights a week that we do this. It's great to see you, Lauren, and you're doing a great job. That's why
I appreciate it.
We're all going to be working for you.
No doubt. We want to thank James Bates for the new opening, and want to mention that you can follow and like us on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. You can listen to us on 37 digital platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and many more. So how's it going, buddy? A lot going on.
It's going well. There is a lot going on. This has been an amazing last 8 or 10 days. I'm going to say this very carefully because I want people to understand. I got this phrase, this concept from a late pastor friend of mine who was one of the most devoted and holy men I know, but who once said of a church function that we were having on a Sunday when the Broncos and his beloved Denver Broncos were playing. He loved those Broncos. He said, be sure and bring lunch and bring a small TV if you have it so we can all worship the Broncos. Meaning making fun of the fanaticism that we all have, one thing or the other. Oh, man. And I think about that is Holy Week. And, of course, for me, there's Holy Week, Holy Week spiritually, and now this past week, Holy Week for me in sports, the Masters, unbelievable, one of the great ones, and I hope we get a chance to talk about it today because it was an amazing event.
Yeah, well, we could start there, buddy. Rory McIlroy completing the career Grand Slam. I'm not a big golf guy, but I know you are, and one thing about it is I think this is something that Rory kind of started out hot. In his career was the kind of the media darling, the next Tiger Woods, so to speak, and then kind of fell off, and things kind of came back to the pack a little bit for him. Just speak to what you've obviously witnessed the greats, everybody from Palmer to Nicklaus to Tiger Woods. But just speak to what something like that means for a guy like Rory McIlroy, the lull in the Grand Slams and things like that. But to be in Augusta, walking down that 18th tee, the last round, and have it right there in his grasp, a lot of near misses, and just, you've been there several times, and just to a golfer and guys you've been involved with, just what that means.
Well, there's a lot there, and I don't want to bore people with golf who don't like golf, but this is not golf. This is just sports.
Absolutely.
One of the great events of all time, and if you didn't see it, I'm sorry, because it was high theater, it was drama. It was all about the things we love to talk about in sports, comebacks, fight, grit, whatever. Rory is, I think I tried to count last night. I think I started following golf kind of closely in 1960 in college. And I learned about it through my friend who was in the service up in Augusta and told me there was an event, the Masters. I knew about it, but he had been a marshal because he was in the service up there. Anyway, long story short, my friend Evan Archie said, this guy Arnold Palmer is really something. And I went to the event. He says, It's incredible. You need to come up here one day. Well, of course I did, and I covered him, and he and I went many, many years. He had tickets for like 40 years. We saw many events together. But what I saw this past week is right up there with the best things I've seen. And not to get too deep into the history books, I think well, how many ever it is since 1960? So that would be 40 plus 20, 65 years. And out of that time, I've seen three events that measured up to the best I ever saw. We just saw in this past week. My all-time favorite will always be Nicklaus in '86 because it was over the hill. Fantastic story. I love Jack Nicklaus. Tiger in '97 when he shot 40 on the front side. They said, well, this kid can't get it done. Well, guess what? The 21-year-old kid got it done in a big way for a long time. And now, just to modify somewhat what you said, he never really faded. That Rory McIlroy was so great as a 21 and 22 years old. It was said, and I read this, that his father worked 100 hours a week. Let me say it again. His father worked 100 hours a week to get him a chance to play professional golf. So he was not born in a gold with a golden silver spoon in his mouth in Northern Ireland. And he worked hard, and he started winning early. And he won all the majors early, except for one, the Masters. And for 10 years, he lived with the burden of the guy who cannot win the Slam. Well, he won the Slam. He won it a big way, and he probably lost it 4 times over the weekend. They had twice. He had chances to they gifted him the Masters here, and he gave it back. Terrible shot on a double bogey at 13. Missed a putt on 18 that would have given it to him. And yet he got one more chance, and it was Justin Rose. And by the way, what a champion Justin Rose. His last time he'll get a chance to win a Masters, I'm sure. But Justin Rose came back, challenged, tied, played in a playoff, and Rory finally made a putt on 18. He actually looked like he was exorcising demons from Masters, literally. He fell to the ground. He began to almost convulse. It was just such a tender moment for so many people. I know my wife didn't know a thing about golf. She'd never been to the Masters or any place. She said, could I get to meet Rory? I said, no, we can't get to meet Rory. But I got to meet Steve Spurrier. Yeah, it's a little bit different there. So huge story, big story, wonderful story, happy times. And what a week we had all together with that. Plus, quite a Saturday at the Swamp.
No doubt about it. And our daily guest sponsor, Comfort Temp Heating and Air, is your #1 local HVAC company. Professional and experienced technicians keep you informed throughout the entire project. Visit us at comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. And yeah, I mean, on Saturday, we want to talk about just a great day. I think, everybody was still kind of just in a haze of celebration, for what happened on Monday night in San Antonio. Just a great scene. The Gators continue to find a way and won the national title, and then to kind of catapult that into Saturday's orange and blue game, where you saw a lot of good things, even though there was very limited DJ Lagway. I think you were really impressed with Dallas Wilson and Jacoby Jackson and others that were just able to show off. But buddy, I think I want to talk about with you. You mentioned in 2006 where it was almost like you had that same springboard effect between the two teams, the football and basketball team, and where others may disagree that is a kind of, you might say osmosis or kind of, catching the momentum, catching the wave. Speak to, why you feel so strongly about you witnessed that, you wrote about it, and just where that can, maybe take this football team after seeing this basketball team, just find a way every single game, basically going back to the SEC tournament and really taking the moniker where people say, well, the tournament doesn't matter. Basically, we're going 9-0 to finish this thing off. And just what effect that could have on Billy Napier and his football team as they kind of navigate one of the toughest schedules again in the country this year.
Well, first, let me say kudos to you. You called the shot 3 or 4 weeks ago what a phenomenal group of receivers that we're going to have. And they have got a remarkable group of receivers. I can't wait. In fact, I think last night on my show, we were trying to get the over under on how many balls Alice Wilson's going to catch against LIU. I'm almost to double figures. We're not quite that high.
Nah.
But on to the thing about the osmosis, great term, by the way, being the scientist that you are, of course. And the idea is that I love me some Coach Steve Spurrier. You know that. I love that guy. He's been amazing. He's got a birthday coming up this week. We talked to him earlier in the week. He'll be 80. He is such a national treasure for this university to have, and every way you want to mention. But we disagree on one thing. He sees it more from a coach's standpoint. I see it more from a writer's, journalist, fan standpoint. And I do believe this is true. I've seen it happen that when you win, it's contagious. And the reason being today, especially because they're all together, eat meals together, athletes from different sports eat together. And I think when one group starts winning, it can set a tone and it can sort of inspire others, I think. And I have no doubt what we saw Walter do, an amazing situation he came up with there. What is it? Gator boys stay hot. I think that was a message to the football team as well. Look, you can do this. They ended the season pretty darn good with 4 straight. The quarterback's going to heal up. I got a feeling something's going on. I asked Coach Spurrier if it's possible for this to carry over, and he said, not so much. You can't worry about the other coaches and other teams. But I think Steve is so focused he does support the other schools now. The idea that he doesn't know what's going on, he does. He was over the baseball on Saturday, where his teammate, high school and college, was honored, Alan Layton Trammell, for his record of 8 RBIs in 1 inning. They honored Alan Trammell there, and he was there to take the presentation for Alan's family. They're good friends. They played together, but he doesn't believe that it carries over. I do. I'm not saying I know more than Coach Spurrier. It's just my conviction. I'll ask you the same question. When one team wins, can it inspire other teams, meaning different sports?
Yeah, I think it can. I mean, you even look at the Saturday, the women's gymnastics team headed to Fort Worth to compete in the national title. They were there with the basketball team, and I do. You could see them interacting. You could see them waving. You could see the gymnastics team kind of watching the basketball team be lauded with praise. And I do. I agree with you, buddy. I think it can be inspiring. I mean, obviously, it's 2 different disciplines from an athletic standpoint, but I absolutely agree with you. I think it's something that can motivate you. For as far as football is concerned, at a school like Florida, where football is still king, you don't want to get left behind. You want to stay the top dog. You want to continue to compete. And no, I think it's huge. And on the YouTube question brought to you by Quality Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing services and emergency repairs since 1984. Our name says it all. Ellis Hull on YouTube says Gators break bread together at Heavener Center and share the same vibe of a winner. I believe the winning ways will be found in the 2025 football team. Yeah, and I mean I agree. I think it was a little more bounce in the swamp, and yeah, I mean I think that this is a team that can catch the wave. I mean it's going to be tough. There's a lot going on, but with the beauty of the 12-team playoff, here's the thing too: you don't have to go undefeated. You don't even have to go 11-1. You can go 10-2. With the Gator schedule, you can probably even maybe go 9-3 if it's the right 9 and the right 3 and make the playoff. And we saw that a team can kind of be at their lowest with an Ohio State and some of that, losing to an unranked Michigan team, but you catch fire. It's kind of like the NCAA tournament now. You catch fire and you get those 4 straight, man, and you're off and running. So I think that yeah, no, I agree totally, buddy.
You certainly can inspire others. I know that I've never seen a player incite, that's the right word, the fans like Tebow. When the very first play he came in the game, and I was there for the very first play, the crowd got jacked up. You could hear him buzzing, talking, whatever. In turn, the fans can jack up the player. You were a player, when they get on,
Hmm.
going on you and believe in you, there's something about it. So I'm hoping that'll be the case. I think Billy's riding a wave of goodwill right now. He's got the players, he's got the QB. What I've heard and seen, he's much better in the defensive side of the ball. And I can't wait to see these young players get out there and play. And you tell me, they got some young talent there or not?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, they have recruited well the last 2 seasons, and I mean, Billy Napier's own words to me as we were walking out of the press room, kind of leaving the stadium, he was going to handle some more recruiting, which kudos to him. It never stops for him, which is a good thing. He said, "Oh, Lauren, I forgot. I got to go recruit." But I said, Coach, it's amazing these young receivers, and his comment to me was, "Whew." I mean, he just was just so pleased, I think, with the young group that he has. And you could throw even Aiden Mizell in that group because he's still a young guy, but improving. Nashawn Montgomery, Vernell Brown III, we mentioned Dallas Wilson. And I mean, just all those guys, just the ability to go out there and make plays. You add them with a guy like J. Michael Sturdivant, Hayden Hanson, Tony Livingston, the backs. And then you got the big dog, DJ Lagway. I mean, I think they should be very pleased with where they're going to be when the fall starts offensively. So, yeah, I mean, I think Billy Napier, you could just tell it was a little different. It was somebody, I've talked to members of the staff, and it just echoed through Billy Napier just speaking on where this team can be, So, I totally agree. Ruse Ogra State Farm office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com or call us at 352-240-1779. And buddy, before we get, I want to speak to a couple things, but Large Fry brought to you by the Meldon Law Facebook question. Facebook question live question brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official accident and injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators, says every Gator needs to meet Steve at one restaurant event before it's too late. I love meeting him at one of his rum events. It's amazing to me, and we don't have to stay on this long, but I know you know Coach Spurrier extremely well. His relevance as a coach, a former coach. I mean, I don't think I've ever, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even, I mean, how popular he is it something that he's just always around? He's always there. He's ever present in a positive way. You don't see that from former coaches. I mean, you hear the names, the Pat Dyes, the Tom Osborns, guys that we know, even where Nick Saban may or may not be. But is anybody as a former coach as beloved as Coach Spurrier long after he has left? I mean, still the premier character, the premier personality at the University of Florida.
Well, take out those University of Georgia people who don't like him, but put him over there. I'll never forget the day you met him for the first time. You came down to the restaurant, and I was there with you, and I was going to try to introduce you to him. And next thing I know, you're over there meeting and talking to him. Said,
Yeah.
my day is complete now. I met Steve Spurrier,
My life is complete, but yeah.
Right. I get to going on him, and I really just love the guy. I have for a number of years. Now he can come at you. He's come at me a couple of times, by the way, too. We've had our moments, but nothing to it to get over it. I just don't know if I've ever seen anybody that means more to their school than Steve Spurrier means to Florida. And I said to him, yesterday we talked. He's got a birthday coming up, and I said, Coach, life is good. I didn't mention, by the way, your name is on the stadium and all that sort of stuff. But I said, you're happy right now, except for a little bit of arthritis, which restricts his golf game, which he's working on. I think today getting another shot. He has got a great life. I said, your son is back coaching. Steve Jr., I wouldn't be shocked if he wound up staying on the staff. Steve was there with all the grandkids. Junior's got a ton of grandkids.
Mhm.
And you've got your restaurants going great. The team is looking up. The basketball team won a national championship. And by the way, let's not forget who won the first of the six. The coach Spurrier was the guy who set the precedent. You're enjoying. They had a great round of golf yesterday. I said, life has treated you really good, Steve, these days. He said, life has always treated me pretty good. And he's
Yeah.
right. He's had a charmed life, so to speak. He's had his downs. He said Jerry had to straighten him out. I just love them both, and they're such great people, and they support everything about the University of Florida. I mean, look, a long time before it was popular, he was over there supporting volleyball and women's sports and basketball. He's a big fan of women's sports, has been a long time. And I think it was said, I believe Rob Brown, who you do the show with tonight, I think, made a comment he heard somebody make in Jacksonville on 1010 radio, not Frank Francis or one of those guys, some other guy, considered himself an expert, made some kind of comment. You can ask him about it. He said, I doubt Steve Spurrier knows the name of two basketball players. Are you kidding me? What a ridiculous statement. Talk
Right.
about uninformed. He knows their names. He knows the coach. He knows Golden. He, by the way, was a terrific basketball player, offered by Tennessee to play basketball as well. And he once scored 44 points in like the 8th grade or something. He could have been a basketball player. Anyway, yeah, I love Steve Spurrier. I don't know anybody bigger. I know there are others that are big, but I don't know anybody bigger than Coach Steven or Spurrier.
No doubt. Los Linderos Tequila. When Urban Meyer wanted to introduce his high quality tequila to the Gator Nation, he made sure to get it to the HBC and his team is Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Dorn's Liquors. Go beyond with smooth Los Linderos, tequila. It actually is pretty good tequila, by the way. So I'll give him I give him another shout out.
Okay.
Yeah, and shout out to Northern Durham High School too, the high school of Steve Spurrier Jr. and my younger brother, Marion. So shout out to the Northern Durham Knights. So both that's what the Meadows have in common with the Spurriers is and I coach there, so that's the
really?
yeah. So yeah, have a little connection that we always talk about when we see Coach and Miss Jerry. So, buddy, this weekend we also had some news that could have an effect going forward, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the House settlement and other issues. But Nico Iamaleava, Tennessee, basically it must have happened Thursday, but came out and said, basically, I want more money. And if I don't get my money, I want to go elsewhere. Hadn't really seen that from a high profile player, particularly. He was kind of the poster child for the NIL with the ruling in California, being paid before he even left high school and having those opportunities. And he was kind of the first one, like, wow, this is really going on. $8 to $10 million was the number. And I guess my thing is, maybe what's the bigger news? The fact that he came out and said, hey, if I don't get my money, I'm going elsewhere, or the fact that Josh Heupel in Tennessee, which I expected, and I told somebody, I said, I've had some conversations with Heupel. I know some guys that have worked for him. He's going to let him walk. I'm telling you, he'll let him walk. They were like, no way. I said, absolutely. Josh Heupel is for the business, is not going down. And I mean, what's the fact that he asked, or the fact that Tennessee let him walk?
Well, I think it's both. I hate to cop out on you there, but I think it's both. First of all, I'm impressed how you say his name. I'm still struggling with that. But anyway, secondly, I mean, the guy is not a great quarterback. Okay, for what I've seen, he's a good college quarterback who got overpaid. He gets right up front, like $2 million or something. It's a difficult landscape to negotiate right now for the administrators and coaches. Who knew? Jaden Rashada's situation is not over for Florida yet. The judge refused to rule in Florida's favor in Pensacola. This is a difficult one for Tennessee. They chose a path, and it was right for them. But let me just say this. I don't know the story. But if what I've read is true, I kind of have to look at it. If he was promised another deal last year and didn't sign, and then Tennessee reneged on it, what do you do? I mean, if you're promised that you don't get it, and you say, "Well, I didn't get my money, I'm leaving," it doesn't sound good or look good, but that's part of business. That's how you do it. You don't start holding out. This looked like a classic NFL holdout. And I get why, and I heard others talk about it. But the fact is, if we're at that point in time where guys are holding out, college football is in big trouble. You better have it set beforehand. There is no holding out. If you miss practice, you're gone. That's it. Again, we talked about it last night on my show. There need to be guidelines. We're all begging for them. No one knows what to do. It's easy to crucify the kid. Don't mean to use that word wrong. Crucify, to just get all over him and tell him he's trash. And probably 80% of the people did. I don't blame Heupel. I think I'd have done the same thing. But I'd like to hear his story more. And by the way, Lauren, this won't be the last we hear of something like this.
No, it won't be. And Large Fry said in the Facebook question live brought to you by Meldon Law, after the orange and blue game, Billy said they were 98% locked in for player retention. Do you think the remaining 2% are stars or lower tier players? It's tough to tell, I think, buddy. You know, you don't get that information, but I think maybe that 2%, and I'll throw this out, maybe are guys that will maybe either find themselves into the transfer portal because, you know, there's just not many snaps for them, or you know, guys that are going to transfer because they feel like, I mean, you know, I think those may be guys that are, you know, obviously Billy Napier's not going to come out and say that, but guys that are finding their way, you know, to other pursuits. So you know, I would say that, you know, and it just depends, but I was at the Heavener Center and you could just kind of see some happening. It was the week before the Final Four. You could see some moving and grooving, and you could just tell that there was a lot going on, trying to get them maybe get ahead of this thing, you know, and maybe not want another reason for not having the spring game televised. Billy Napier mentioned, you know, people getting to look at the roster and maybe kind of scale back some of the tampering and things like that. So, you know, to be interesting. And speaking of Nico, Ellis Hole said on the YouTube question brought to you by Quality Plumbing that Nico, I guess, is the second coming of AR-15, great arm, but not accurate, very little football IQ. You know, I don't think that's fair to AR for a number of reasons, because I know the young man. I think he's class act, does a great job with the kids, things like that. And that NFL game is tough, man. It takes a while. And, you know, people forget, what did Peyton Manning throw, 30 some interceptions, buddy? I mean, you know, I mean, led the league in interceptions. So let's let things work out with AR. And I mean, I know he's got a great team around him, things like that, but could be. I mean, I agree with you. Nico left a lot to be desired for you know, Tennessee fans sometime, and football fans alike. But you know, that's their issue. I guess the schools that are in play are the Ohio State Buckeyes, Colorado Buffaloes, and maybe the Oregon Ducks. But it was said that Dan Lanning was the first to call Josh Heupel and inform him that Nico was looking elsewhere. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. You know, beauty of it is, wait till the beginning of May. You'll probably have all your questions answered by the time this thing ends. So, you know, but that's just the way it goes. I think it's the new normal. Like I keep saying, I spoke with Kevin Sumlin in Daytona a couple years ago, and he flat out told me, he said, the new normal, everybody needs to get used to it. So,
yeah, last 15, 20 seconds you got. Now you got it. I'm not trying to produce your show. You got plenty of help. I want to say I disagree with Belly on the theory that let's don't show the spring games. People kill our players. That's going to happen. I guess maybe if they had it locked down so the players couldn't go during that time, that wouldn't happen. But if you start saying, well, let's don't put that on TV, let's don't tell the people because the other guy's going to find out about it, that's a paranoia way of doing business. I don't like that. That's why I love Spurrier. So in the open about everything. It's a different time and different era. I appreciate his dilemma, but I don't agree with it. I think a lot of players, a lot of people who couldn't afford to come there or who maybe physically were disabled were disappointed they couldn't see something about the Gators on TV. And all that mumbo jumbo about TV, I couldn't understand it. I could never find a stream, nothing. Bottom line is, please don't go there. I mean, I've often said if football coaches had their way, they just soon play without a crowd. Don't have any people in the state. Let's let us go on the field and run our plays. And that's not what I want to see Florida become.
I agree, buddy, and that's a great end. Who we got on the show tonight, buddy?
I think you, brother.
Yeah, so
Let's
some
see
guy,
what it is.
some
You're
guy
taking
named Loren
over. You're
Meadows.
everybody. You're Buddy Martin. You're Shane Matthews.
Oh
Everyone
man.
on your TV, your computer. There's Loren, and you're doing a great job, by the way.
Well, thank you for everything, and your lovely wife. Tell her hello, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, Coach Meadows. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Sign, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless, mimosas, and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to PodUp with Matthews in the morning. And we're joined now by Kyle Crooks, brought to you by Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort Temp Heating and Air is your #1 local HVAC company. Professional and experienced technicians keep you informed throughout the entire project. Visit us at comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. And we're joined by Kyle Crooks, voice of Gators women's softball, women's basketball, women's soccer, and a little bit more. Gonna be active tonight at the baseball game as well. Tell the folks what you're doing, Kyle.
Yeah, I have some baseball tonight with Steve Russell on the radio. I've done some baseball this year. I've done some gymnastics last couple of years, which figure out how to do that. Filled in for Sean on men's hoops as well, and work a little bit on the football broadcast. So there's a good chance if you follow the Gators, you may have seen me or heard my voice, or unfortunately you've been forced to hear my voice at some point.
Yeah, no doubt. Then Gator baseball team takes on the Stetson Hatters in the midweek, and so if you got some time, go out, support the Gators. There's no softball tonight, so softball is off until I think Thursday night when they play Alabama. So definitely go out and check them out. Florida Cracker Kitchen. Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food and Southern hospitality in the center of the universe. Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. Center of the universe. Brooksville, Florida, Kyle. So So you just got back from a trip out to Ole Miss where the Gators were able to take 2 or 3 from the Ole Miss Rebels. Probably feel like they let one get away on Sunday that would have kind of put them more in the mix of the SEC regular season race. I think Texas A&M is right now is the top team in the SEC. But speak to, this is a team that started out extremely hot with the bats. Taylor Shoemaker, freshman, was hitting the ball extremely well. Others, and this lineup was one of the top lineups in the country. And then things have kind of come back to the pack. And the biggest issue has been really the health of Keegan Rothrock, their top pitcher who led them to the College World Series, basically to the final game as a freshman, was able to take down Oklahoma and end their winning streak there in Oklahoma City. But where is this team now? I mean, obviously sitting right there at that A spot where you want to be for the Super Regional, but from what you see from this softball team, is this a team that, when the dust settles, could still find themselves in Oklahoma City and maybe even at top of the SEC?
I think the biggest, you mentioned it, the biggest question mark to that equation is Keegan Rothrock. She's coming back from that undisclosed injury. It's the first time that she had started not just one, but twice, 2 games on a weekend against Ole Miss. So we're moving in the right direction in terms of maybe her getting closer to 100%. She's not pitched up to what we are used to. Now, I think a big part of that is she hadn't pitched in a month. She went down and she was announced that she was going to be gone for a little bit in late February. Didn't pitch again until the Auburn series a couple weekends ago. So usually you need some repetition and to keep things going as a pitcher. And Keegan just hasn't had that. Friday and Sunday in the Ole Miss series just didn't go well for Keegan Rothrock. She Friday, I think it was 3 runs kind of right out of the gate, was hit around. And then Sunday pitched a little bit better, I would say, for sure. But gave up the one big miss she gave up was a grand slam. Gators were down 5-0 and were able to fight back and lose 8-6. But you need her to be around at most 2-3 earned runs allowed and then let this offense do its thing. I think the good thing, Lauren, is offensively, Florida has found some things. Corbiotis, I think, is right back on track. She, I think, was hitting 216, hit 216 for the month of March. And now here in April, after the grand slam she hit against Arkansas, seems to be back on the right track. Jocelyn Erickson homered a couple times over the weekend, seems to be back on track. I think there are a lot of players slumping at the same time. Taylor Shoemaker, the same thing. She had a stretch, Lauren, that she was over last 16. And now she hit a pretty good spot. She had a multi-hitter on Sunday. She now has set the freshman RBI record. She has 61 RBI in the year. A lot of that, though, like you said, because of what she did at the start of the year. I mean, we hadn't seen anything like it to begin a season. So there was a lot of people slumping at the same time. Ava Brown, though, pitching wise, pitched well on I think it was Saturday for her. So there's some good pitching performances, but they need Keegan to win a national championship. You need Keegan Rothrock to be what she was last year and maybe more.
And Kyle, you talk, I mean, it's not a ton of media coverage when I say talking to the girls expressly one-on-one. A lot of people have commentary about softball. You spent time with Keegan. You're around the team. How's her spirits? How is her mental game, dealing with the injury? How is she dealing with some of the struggles that you even saw after the Grand Slam? She was smiling, which is always a good sign, but you don't know if that's angst or is she confident that eventually she's going to get back to where she was last season?
Yeah, I think it's for her, she's putting a lot of pressure on herself, and that could be very, very tough as an athlete, because when you compound that pressure, struggles start to avalanche a little bit, and you hope that she's able to take a deep breath and realize that maybe she doesn't have to do it all of herself. I think if there's any good part about her being gone for a month is you got all these innings for Caitlin Oxley, who, did not pitch well on Sunday, but had a 3-inning save on Friday night. You get more innings for an Ava Brown. You even get more innings for an Olivia Miller, who I think might be used a little bit more as the SEC season rolls on here. I just think for her, she wants to be the best because she has been the best her entire life. And when you're in a situation where you're really struggling, and that, there's no secret. She knows, and everybody knows, she's the difference between Florida being a national championship contender and maybe getting to the World Series and winning a game and then losing two. So we all know what she means to this team, and I think she knows that. So I think there's just a lot of pressure right now, personally, that she's putting on herself. And as an athlete, that is not an easy demon to fight. So I think she'll get better. I think the good thing is we still have 3 weekends or so left here in SEC play. It's not going to be a whole lot easier. Alabama just beat Oklahoma last night.
Yeah.
2 of 3. Oklahoma's not the team that we've become accustomed to. When you hear Oklahoma, all of a sudden you're like, wow. They lost everybody from the senior class that won 4 straight national championships, and they're trying to find out some things offensively too. But Alabama, that's a great series win for them. Then the Gators are going to have LSU and then Oklahoma coming to town. So they have a chance to make up a lot of ground and open a lot of eyes, but it's going to start with Keegan Rothrock.
Yeah, no doubt. And Kyle, we've got a question from Andy McIntosh, brought to you by Quality Plumbing on the YouTube live question. He asked, Kyle, do you think Mia Williams is the most improved player this year, and what has led to that success? Obviously, Mia has already more hits. I think she has almost as many home runs as she had hits last year, really improving. The daughter of Jason Williams, former Florida basketball player who, to his credit, keeps a very low profile, likes the spotlight on Mia, does a great job of really putting her first and putting her out there. But, what has led to her resurgence, say, here in her sophomore year?
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at some of the numbers. So she now has 16 home runs, and we still have however many weekends left in SEC play. And I think confidence is a big thing. When experience is, you have to go through it. And her freshman year, she was in the lineup every single day as the second baseman and just could not find any consistency. Now, she had some big hits last year that most notably had a couple of those home runs that we saw at Auburn that helped the Gators to an SEC tournament championship. And we saw glimpses last year of her being the phenom that she was labeled to be, a female Alex Rodriguez that some people called her coming up. So I think she's been able to diagnose pitches much better, hit the changeup much better. Overall, at the plate, her swings are just more measured. She's able to take her walks. She's not chasing. Her power is just incredible. So she had her first career multi-homer game of her career on Friday night. Had that big home run Sunday to kind of keep the pulse going. It was a 3-run home run. Gators were down 6-0. It's just amazing slugging, on base, home runs, hits. You almost feel like you throw last year away and you hope this is the new Mia Williams. And I think part of it is she's putting a lot less pressure on herself as you're this big recruit coming out. Now you sort of start from a different baseline, because now you had last year and people think, when they think of Mia Williams, that, at first begin the year to think of a freshman that sort of struggled a little bit. And now it's a lot different. She is a difference maker in this lineup, but this is everything that they thought that she could be.
No doubt. Florida victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators. joined today to help make Florida victorious. And speaking of Florida and victories, we got another big deal going on, I think, in Fort Worth this weekend, correct? Is that
Yeah,
this weekend?
gymnastics. Yeah,
Gymnastics.
NCAA
And
championships.
once again, we talked about it. I don't know if you heard when Buddy was on, kind of athletic osmosis. Yeah, the Final Four win, the Florida Gators basketball team kind of picks it up. Maybe even give a shout out to Mouse Holloway, three-time defending men's outdoor track and field champions. But just, we talk about them, eating meals together to heaven or spending time together, almost like bouncing ideas, like a enlightenment period, so to speak, for athletes, because they're all together, they're slapping five, they're sitting down, eating together, just talking about greatness. So gymnastics is up, and I know you follow gymnastics as well. Is this a team that could bring it all home? I mean, obviously losing Sloan Blakely. Sloan was in good spirits on Saturday, got to see her, but even with her sister and others, uh, you know, making that trip to Fort Worth, is this a team that could bring Jenny Rowland her first national title?
It'd be interesting because considering all the teams that she has had, that this is the one, a team that has dealt with a lot of injury. That would be the one that would bring in the national championship. I had a chance to talk with Jenny a couple weeks ago, and I don't know a whole lot about gymnastics. I'm going to be honest with you. I just, I know some about the team and have a chance to broadcast a couple of their meets on SEC Network. It's a really solid group. Leanne Wong, talk about somebody who's done everything correct in her college career, not just a tremendous athlete, all-American that has a tens on every single apparatus, which is super rare, but a great entrepreneur as well in the business that she has started. And Selena Harris Miranda, transfer from UCLA, one of the prized possessions out of the transfer portal. And, transfer portal is a thing in every single sport. And certainly for gymnastics, getting her was such an incredible difference maker. And they have such great young talent. But like you said, having to go through all the injuries that they have this year, I think every time that Florida steps foot in Fort Worth for an NCAA championship, they have a shot. But it would be, just like I said at the start, how ironic it would be in a year that everything has seemed to go against them injury-wise, that they find a way to win a national championship, the first for Jenny Rowland. And, to speak to the consistency of what Jenny has done here to get this team back to a point in time where they can win a national championship, that cannot be undersold. It's very hard to win a national championship, and it's really hard to get your team to the point to win a national championship. I think that speaks to the greatness of her program, that they're consistently in this point, no matter whether they're healthy or not.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and I got to give a shout out to Jenny Rowland. I think you and I both would agree. Florida has the luxury of having the best dressed gymnastics coach and then the best coach with the shoe game in Kelly Ray Finley in women's basketball. So
Yeah.
if we don't win nothing, we win the outfits and the shoes in women's sports for
No
real.
doubt.
So I mean, it definitely stands out. So Jenny's always looking sharp, and then you and I both know Kelly with the kicks, does a great job with that as well. So, definitely, wish them the best of luck. And, wouldn't that be something? I mean, basically 2 weeks apart for Florida to bring home, two national titles. I mean, would just be unbelievable. And like I said, I mean, it's the everything school. I think that Florida is set to, and track will do their thing, and then, hopefully that will springboard to, success in what is still Florida's, ultimate sport, football. JF Hayden Craft Liquors, the Pouncey Twins provide all of Gator Nation with the highest quality liqueurs made by JF Hayden Craft Liquors. Find your favorite, including the lychee and mango flavors, at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. So before we let you go, Kyle, maybe the last, 5 to 10 minutes, you were able to, like you said, fill in for Sean on some games and really watch this basketball team from start to finish. You're around, you do the you do the preparation, you spend time, you spend time with these guys. Find one thing for me that, we know Walter Clayton Jr. is a great player. Will Richard, uh, you know, Condon, Howe, Elijah Martin. But who, if people didn't know, when you sit and you watch this team in the complex, who was it maybe? And maybe it was one of those guys. But ultimately, who was the one to steady this group from start to finish to really, I want to tell a story that I kind of noticed, but who, in your opinion, was the one to really get this team to just lock in pretty much all season and be focused to, because everybody talks about, man, we're going to be good, we're going to be good. But really hang in there in some tough times throughout the season, handle adversity, but keep everybody locked in to make this run in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a cop-out answer, but I think it's that senior trio. It was such a difference maker this year. And the obvious is Walter Clayton Jr., right? That's the obvious from a performance standpoint and from a leadership standpoint. I think the consistency of, aside from leadership standpoint, performance aspect, the consistency of an Elijah Martin on the defensive end, who they said coming in was a dog at FAU, is going to be a dog here. He's going to be a difference maker. When the Gators needed some big buckets during this NCAA tournament run, boy, was he there to provide. And then a Thomas Houck, somebody who was incredibly under-recruited out of the state of Pennsylvania, grew up a Gator fan, Tim Tebow on his walls, all that, like a lot of Gator fans growing up, to pull him out of Pennsylvania. And the story's been told, there's no 5 stars on this roster. It's pretty amazing when you look at the high school star rating for everybody on this team. I mean, they got a couple of 4 stars and that's it. Thomas Houck to me was, boy, what a jump from freshman to sophomore year. And some of the numbers that he improved in, he doubled up his, one number I always go back to, he doubled up his free throw percentage from one year to the next. To me, it's a small thing because it's one stat, but it just shows the work that he put in the offseason, his motor, his energy, his defensive intensity. This team was not good defensively last year, not this past year, but last year. They were a 90 defensive rating. They went to a top 10 defensive team. How does that happen? That's a Ruben Chindler. That's a Thomas Houck. That's an Alex Condon. Those are guys that every single night brought it on the defensive end. And then the consistency, like I said, of that senior trio. How awesome was it for Will Richard in the first half of that national championship game, when this team things could have gone sideways against Houston. They could have found themselves down 20 points in that first half. And Will Richard hit some really big shots. The first guy that made that leap as a transfer under Todd Golden, he was that first guy that brought over, build this nucleus to what turned out to be the 3rd ever national championship in school history. And championship teams, Loren, it's not just one guy. It's not just 2 guys. There's a consistency throughout the entire roster of intensity, high motor, high playmaking. That's what makes this team special. One of a kind, generational, man.
Right.
So fun to watch and so fun to be around.
Right. And I think one thing, and then we'll let you go, I want to is give a shout out to Elijah Martin, because when they got that first technical on the bench, the first guy to walk out there and say, and I think that's something that has kind of been missed is, hey, let's get together. Come on. Let's get it together. And you saw that from him. And I was like, they're going to win.
Yeah.
I was like, they're going to win. And that, I mean, just like you said, everybody had a part in it, both from an athletic standpoint, but also an emotional standpoint. And I think that's maybe the biggest key is you said you saw a team that was in the 90s defensively to go to a top 10 team defensively, and then, tandem that with a top 10 offense, and you get the national champ. So you see my chair behind me.
Yeah, I like it.
I bought something back with me. So, I mean, it was obviously a great experience, and, definitely, proud of the Gator Nation and what they were able to accomplish. And, go down in the annals of history, the down with the '04s, with the 2 national titles, and to win this one. It was a great event. But Kyle, we appreciate you joining us, man. Definitely appreciate you coming on, and thanks for all the insight. Definitely.
Anything for you, my man, Lauren.
All
Always,
right, man.
great to see and chat with you.
Yes, sir. See you soon.
All right, see ya.
All right. Kyle Crooks, brought to you by our daily sponsor, Comfort Temp Heating and Air. And to finish up, we'll do This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA, putting star power to work in your financial life for over 90 years. Campus USA Credit Union. This Day in Sports. On this day, the great Jackie Robinson made his official major league debut in a regular season game for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Thanks for joining us. This is Loren Meadows in for Shane Matthews, PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Thanks for joining us.